Oh, not so bad. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. First, I just want to say that my heart has been so with you all in these last few weeks, those of you from Lake Tahoe especially, going through the evacuation and, you know, that worry about losing your home and your town. I know that feeling. And you know, watching the Caldor fire, even, you know, from afar, you know, really paying attention to the news every day, it brought up for me a lot of feelings and memories of going through the campfire and losing my home 3 years ago in the campfire, that experience. And interestingly, it wasn't until, for me, it wasn't until the 1 year anniversary of the campfire, that 1 year anniversary, they showed all these documentaries um, on TV, on national TV, and I watched them, and something happened. It was as if, you know, I had this releasing of the trauma of that to complete, that I hadn't fully, you know, gone through the process completely, and I didn't even know that. And watching those documentaries, I just found myself sobbing, you know, just really shaking my whole body and sobbing. And there was just this huge, deep catharsis. And I felt like I got to the place of completion with that grief. And, you know, so often it takes time to release a traumatic experience, especially from the memory in our cells. The memory kind of hangs out in our physical body, in our cells. And I share this because I imagine, you know, I saw that, you know, so many of you in your prayers were praying for thanking the firefighters and, you know, prayers for people that have lost their homes. And I just imagine that those of you in Tahoe are still in process. You know, you're still processing your experience, and that fire is still burning. And it takes a while. It takes time to be with all the feelings and integrate those feelings and integrate how we feel about them. And also integrate, you know, the wisdom that we gain. I have to say, the process for me, I gained so much, but it came later, you know, it came later. And it's the same with 9/11. And, you know, as you know, yesterday was the commemoration of the 20-year anniversary of 9/11. And I know you all remember where you were on that day. My mentor in seminary, she was on her very first day as a city chaplain in New York City, the day that happened. Um, and so, you know, of course, we're also watching, presently, we're watching kind of COVID part two, right? We're watching the Delta variant, and it's challenging right now. And so all of these challenging life events that affect us, that affect our emotional body and our nervous system and our tender hearts, we need to, you know, be aware of. We need to be aware that life is asking a lot of us right now. It really is. And the antidote, in my opinion, is to cultivate a lot of self-compassion, you know, on a daily basis, you know, and to really nurture ourselves and to nurture each other and let ourselves off the hook for not having it all together. And allow ourselves maybe to call a friend and say that mantra that I shared in my talk on communicating. Sometimes we need to say, I suffer, please help. I'm suffering. Please help. Could you just listen? I don't really need to be fixed. I don't need advice. I just need a good listener. And I just need to share what I'm feeling. You know, the witness is so healing, just to have a witness to what we're going through. We all want to be so strong and brave, and we so often are, but we have these human hearts, and we have this inner child part of our being that needs to know we are safe, we are loved, God is here, love is here, and it is going to be all right. It is going to be all right. So I've been looking at stories and how important stories are in our spiritual growth, in our awakening process, and how important it is that we share our stories and that we take in other people's stories of how they meet the big challenging moments of their life. We learn through each other's stories. Jesus and all the great masters taught through story. They taught through parable. As you know, parable means a short story with a moral or spiritual lesson. So I was recently remembering a story I saw in a documentary of the campfire that really touched my heart. It was about this man, Kevin Mckay, and he was this part-time bus driver, school bus driver. And on that morning of November 8th, 2018, Kevin had just dropped off the kids at the Paradise Elementary School, Ponderosa Elementary. And he had left, but he was still in the area, and he got this call. And the call said, please go immediately back to the school. There's this massive fire. It's moving 80 football fields per minute. It was moving 80 football fields per minute, 800 feet per minute. Go get the kids. The fire is only 1 mile from the school. So he went, and he picked up 22 kids and 2 teachers. And they got on the bus, but they were stuck in traffic, and they were barely moving. They just were inching along, and the fire was burning everything in sight. And they weren't sure that they would make it out. And at one point, the kids were starting to feel like they were going to pass out from the carbon monoxide in the air. And so Kevin takes off his shirt. It was an extra large. He was a large man. And he has one of the teachers tear his shirt into strips and then use this water bottle and wet the strips with water and give each child a little strip of his shirt that was wet to breathe through, a little, mini mask. And the teacher, even though, she's wondering if they're going to survive this, she jokes with the kids and says, I can't promise how recently he washed this shirt. And the kids giggled. But the fire outside, as they were stuck in traffic, was heating up the school bus, kind of like a pizza oven. And it was like at least 100 degrees inside the bus, and this was November. And they became really dehydrated. And so one of the teachers insisted she had to get off the bus and go find water because they were just at a standstill. And so she got off and she stumbled through the dark, and it was just black smoke. You couldn't see anything. But she found the guy with a hose. Talk about amazing grace. And he ran into his trailer. He filled her one water bottle up, but he ran into his trailer then, and he brought out a whole case of bottled water. An amazing, amazing gesture in such an intense moment. And then the next thing, there was a woman knocking on the school bus, and Kevin let her in, and she was this preschool teacher, and she was in her car that ran out of gas. But finally, because Kevin knew the back roads of Paradise, and because of a lot of grace, after 6 hours of stop and go, Kevin got those kids 25 miles away to a little town of Briggs, and they were able to call their parents. And, you can imagine how beyond relief their parents were to know their children were safe. And so, I don't know, this man, this bus driver, Kevin Mckay, when you look at his picture, he just, looks like an ordinary guy, working part-time, driving a school bus. But on that day, his extraordinary courage and selflessness, as well as the teachers that were on that bus, a story like that, it makes me certain that there's such good in humanity, that there is such God in humanity, in every one of us. And I imagine Kevin never wanted to be or planned to be a hero, but he became one on that day, and 22 sets of parents will never, ever forget him. We need stories. We need stories that remind us of our innate capacity for courage, for goodness, and for perseverance, and sometimes for forbearance. Stories that remind us to never, ever give up. As I was, reading so many stories this week, it was so hard to pick which story to tell you. I have a couple more I want to share, but Joseph Campbell, I've been watching videos of him this week, and he's written extensively on the importance of story and on the importance of myth. And he wrote, "We are all heroes struggling to accomplish our adventure. As human beings, we engage in a series of struggles to develop as individuals and to find our place in society, to find our place." I'm still settling into this new chapter as your minister. And I really want to connect with you all. And, I sometimes just feel like I feel limited by this medium that we have, this Zoom medium. I really wanted to come down 2 weeks ago and be with you in person and feel the energetic connection you can only feel when you're in the same room. But you remember that saying, if you want to make God laugh, tell her your plans, right? So the universe had other plans, and you all had to evacuate, bless your hearts. And then we have this pandemic, part 2, the Delta variant, right? And it's hard not to feel like, are we stuck in the storyline of a disaster movie? Does anybody else feel disaster fatigue? I've been reading about this thing. It's a thing, disaster fatigue. I bet I'm not the only one that feels it. It's a lot to meet life right now. Another wonderful quote from Joseph Campbell, though, that's so relevant, says, "We must let go of the life we have planned so as to accept the one that is waiting for us. Find a place inside where there's joy, and the joy will burn out the pain." Find the place inside where there's joy, and the joy will burn out the pain. I feel like we've been doing that this morning. I've always felt that, it's a luxury to be able to focus on our spiritual life and growth. There are many people around the world that, they're just trying to get enough food to live another day. So we have this luxury. We have our needs met so we can focus on our spiritual growth. And, we had an experience, though, or many of you had an experience of running from a fire, running for your lives. And that really gives us compassion. I mean, that's one of the gifts that I gained from my experience in the campfire is there's a compassion that grows for others who are in survival. We gain understanding of how many others feel that don't have the luxuries we do. So, sometimes the Dharma talk that we need is just, calm your mind down, calm your nervous system down, take care of the stress response, rest, eat well, be where you feel safe. And then, when the basic needs are covered and the nervous system is soothed, then we can rest in that place inside where there's calm peace, even quiet joy, where God is, where I am. And as we do that, and as that becomes the norm, we actually can, I'm not at this stage yet, but we can go through, really challenging moments and actually feel that equanimity and be in that place of calm peace, where God is, I am. I so enjoyed meditating with the prayer chaplains for a bit this Thursday, and the theme that Laura shared from Worldwide Unity was, no matter the circumstances, all is well with my soul. Would you affirm that with me right now? No matter the circumstances, all is well with my soul. That's from Psalm 46, verse 1. It is well with my soul. Just feel that. It is well with my soul. All the great spiritual masters implore us to regularly reside in the awareness of spiritual well-being, no matter the circumstances of the outer world. I'd like to share one of my very favorite scriptures, which is a teaching from the Buddha that expounds on how we live in this place where it is well with our soul. It's from the Dhammapada. Live in joy in love, even among those who hate. Live in joy, in health, even among the afflicted. Live in joy, in peace, even among the troubled. Look within, be still. Free from fear and attachment, know the sweet joy of living in the way. You could say living in the way where all is well with my soul. There's so much wisdom to unpack from this teaching. And I think it's important to say that living in joy doesn't mean that we spiritually bypass our painful emotions. You know, all that we feel, all the fear and the worry and the sadness and the self-doubt and the insecurity and the irritation and frustration and grief and sorrow, all our feelings must have room to be allowed and to be welcomed and to be embraced and to be given space to be fully processed. And the way we process them is to meet them with the higher energies of compassion and acceptance and allowing. There's an exercise I often lead at my retreats. Some of you have been in retreat with me and you've done it with me. But I'd like to share a short version of it now, this process now, because it's so helpful. So let's take a moment to breathe consciously and just center ourselves. I just invite you to take one breath, breathing in with awareness. And exhale with awareness. And then I just invite you to scan your recent experience for what's been difficult. Scan your recent experience for what's been difficult. Maybe it was going through the evacuation, frantically packing your car. Maybe it was a friend with COVID or a COVID scare. Maybe it's struggling with a feeling of depression or despair. But in this moment, we just want to invite all the elements of this story of what we've been going through. And normally I'd pair you up and I'd have you share your story with each other. But for now, I just invite you to bring it into your own mind. What have you been going through? Just bring it into your mind and heart. And now I invite you to explore what are the feelings underneath the struggle. Scan your emotional body and get in touch with what feelings you've been feeling. Maybe it's exhaustion from stress or loneliness, or maybe it's sadness. But let all the feelings you've been feeling come to the surface and name them. Name them in your mind. And now I invite you to expand your energy field and to feel the awareness here. Feel the awareness that you are. The widerness beyond just the body, mind, emotional body. Just the awareness, consciousness, spaciousness here. And in this spaciousness, just feel the vibration of this energy, the love of it, the loving awareness, and the compassion here, the unconditional love here. And let your heart vibrate with those energies. And then let this spacious, loving awareness just hold all those painful emotions. All those feelings can just be held in awareness. They can be allowed. There's a wide open spaciousness here that can hold it all, that can accept and embrace it all. And so just rest and let this meeting happen. It's really a meeting of the awareness that you are your true nature with your inner child. It is the soul that is well, meeting and embracing the child that's afraid. And it's so important that this meeting happens in us. It's our divine humanness meeting. So with skillfulness and with inviting loving awareness, we can live in joy. We can live in peace, even among troubling emotions that we might have. You know, even among troubling occurrences that are happening around us. You know, it's a moment-to-moment intentional choice. We make the intentional choice. Now, there's one more piece of that scripture that I think is so relevant with what's happening in our society right now, and that's the line, live in joy and love even among those who hate. A very deep teaching from Jesus. He puts it, love your enemies. Live in love even among those who hate. There seems to be in our society right now, just everything's turned up, and no wonder, no wonder. The disaster fatigue, makes us a little bit, have a little bit of a shorter fuse, or a lot shorter fuse. But there's a lot of rage, and there's judgments flying between very differing points of view that people are holding, especially with the issues of COVID, of vaccines and mask wearing. And we really need to bring this compassionate, loving awareness to these situations and these interactions, because people are so attached to their view and their perceptions right now that some are becoming violent, We need an extra dose of compassion for the fact that we, as humanity, we've never faced a worldwide pandemic in this lifetime, in our lifetime, right? So we're trying to figure something out we've never dealt with before. So we need to just, we need an extra dose of compassion for that. And as people devoted to unity, I know that you all are, and I am, can we maintain an energy of respect? For me, I'm available to talk to anyone with any point of view, even if it's different than mine, if there's respect. And if there's not, well, then I'm not available. It's just a simple, healthy boundary, and healthy boundaries are important. But when someone's sure their perception's right and yours is wrong, it's kind of like that old saying, never try to teach a pig to sing. It wastes your time and annoys the pig. Many years ago, I was a guest musician at a church in Phoenix, Unity of Phoenix, and I heard this great story from the minister there that I never forgot, and I'd like to share it with you. It's great for the moment we're in. It's called The Cookie Thief by Valerie Cox. A woman was waiting in an airport one night with several long hours before her flight. She hunted for a book in the airport shop and bought a bag of cookies and found a place to drop. She was engrossed in her book, but happened to see that the man sitting beside her, as bold as he could be, grabbed a cookie or two from the bag in between, which she tried to ignore to avoid a scene. So she munched the cookies and watched the clock as the gutsy cookie thief diminished her stock. She was getting more irritated as the minutes ticked by, thinking, if I wasn't so nice, I would blacken his eye. With each cookie she took, he took one too. When only one was left, she wondered what he would do. With a smile on his face and a nervous laugh, he took the last cookie and broke it in half. He offered her half as he ate the other, and she snatched it from him and thought, oh, brother, this guy has some nerve, and he's also rude. Why, he didn't even show any gratitude. She'd never known when she'd been so galled, and sighed with relief when her flight was called. She gathered her belongings and headed to the gate, refusing to look back at the thieving ingrate. She boarded the plane and sank in her seat, and then she sought her book, which was almost complete. As she reached in her baggage, she gasped with surprise. There was her bag of cookies in front of her eyes. If mine are here, she moaned in despair. The others were his. And he tried to share. Too late to apologize, she realized with grief that she was the rude one, the ingrate, the thief. It's such a great story to remind us that when we're having criticisms and judgments about others, we might ask ourselves, are you sure? Are you sure? You know, we could be wrong. Imagine that. Or our view might be incomplete. And I think that's what's happening in our world right now. Our view is incomplete. And with the whole story, we might gain understanding. And with that, there's more compassion. And there's more of the possibility of real communication. Another reason I love this story is that the man didn't need to show her how wrong she was, right? He just sweetly and generously shared his cookies and let her have a, bad attitude, even as he was being really generous and kind. So, that's an example of living in joy and love, even among those who judge you and criticize you, often quite unfairly. So, in my opinion, to live in joy and in peace, even among the troubled and even among the troubling, that's where many of us are right now in our story of life, in our personal stories. I know it's not easy, I have my days where, I'm not having an easy time and I'm not sure I can even write a talk because I too struggle, in all honesty. I have self-doubt moments where I'm not sure I have anything worthy to share. We all have to embrace self-doubt. We all have our feelings of being lost in the mire. And in those moments, we can apply that practice I just shared of opening up and consciously placing our attention on loving awareness and allowing, awareness to hold us and all that we feel and let all be held and accepted and embraced. When we are cultivating this compassion for ourselves, it will naturally flow out to others. It becomes much easier to be compassionate towards others. So I have one last story. I was thinking, should I cut a story and make this talk shorter? But I have to share this one. This one really inspired me. This past week, I watched the movie of Aretha Franklin. You can get it on Netflix. And it's the life of Aretha Franklin, played by Jennifer Hudson. And she did such a great job. And there was a scene that I want to share with you. It was towards the end of the movie, and it had such a powerful spiritual teaching. So Aretha is talking to her dad, and her dad was a preacher of one of the biggest Baptist churches in Detroit. And Aretha had, in this moment in time, really lost her way. She was drinking a lot. Her ego was getting the best of her. She was having all sorts of relationship problems. And she was sharing all this with her dad. And her dad, at one point, he just stopped her and he said, Aretha, you've lost your spiritual connection. You've lost your spiritual connection. And it stopped her in her tracks, and it got her thinking and reflecting on how she hadn't felt that inner joy. She hadn't felt that connection with God in a long time. And so she goes to visit her close friend, the choir director at the church that she grew up as a child singing with. And she's telling her friend how spiritually dry she feels and how God isn't there anymore. And he says to her, God is with you. God is with you. Are you with God? Are you with God? And so she goes through this period of self-reflection and decides she wants to sing gospel again. Because that was her roots and that was her most powerful spiritual practice. And so she starts singing gospel again and praying through song, and she starts feeling spirit, and she's with God again. And the scene where she's singing Amazing Grace, it's a live recording, and she's in church during this gospel album. It just it's chill bump inducing. It just made me just sob, because she was feeling lost and she found her way back. And it's the story, I think, for all of us. I'm guessing we've all had spiritually dry times. Maybe we're having it now. Or maybe in a day we might feel close to spirit, and then in the next moment, I know I've had quite a wide range of emotions in a day often. We might forget that we have free will, and that's an important piece of it, that we need to place our attention on spirit to be with God. So, in closing, I invite you to reflect on that. God is with me. Am I with God? Can I live in joy and peace even amidst the troubling times, even amidst the struggling? Can I remember again and again when I feel lost to invite loving presence, invite loving awareness, and let it hold all my sorrow and worry until I know I am not alone. I am with God. And peace and joy and feeling that all is well with my soul is possible. It's always possible right here, right now. So may each one of you feel that all is well with your soul. And may all beings everywhere who are suffering be at peace and feel that all is well. May it be. And so it is. Amen.
Yes, indeed. That was great. I really enjoyed those stories.